Thanks for joining us on This Week in Health IT Influence. My name is Bill Russell, former healthcare CIO for a 16 hospital system and creator of This Week in Health IT, a channel dedicated to keeping health IT staff current and engaged. Today we have David Baker, CIO for Pacific Dental, on the show. David is one of my favorite people. He is an innovator. He used to work for me and used to innovate all over the place in healthcare, and now he's gone into the dental space. He's innovating there as well. He's doing some great things with Epic and really just moving the needle in the dental space. I think you'll enjoy this show. Special thanks to our Influence show sponsors, Sirius Healthcare and Health Lyrics, for choosing to invest in our mission to develop the next generation of health IT leaders. If you want to be a part of our mission, you can become a show sponsor as well. The first step is to send an email to partner@thisweekinhealthit.com. Just a quick note before we get to our show, we launched a new podcast, Today in Health IT. We look at one story every weekday morning and we break it down from a health IT perspective. You can subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts at Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast, you name it, we're out there. You can also go to todayinhealthit.com. And now on to today's show. Today we are joined by David Baker, the CIO for Pacific Dental. David, welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
It's been a while for sure. A couple of things went on in between, and I'm excited to be back with you, Bill.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to hit the COVID journey all that hard, but I absolutely am going to have to get an update on Epic and where you guys are going. I don't know if you want to start there, if you want to start with, our normal small talk that we get into. What people may not know is that we used to work together. You worked for me. You were the head of digital, or head of experience, essentially. It was internal and external experience, and you were doing a lot of stuff. I jokingly call you my experience mentor, my digital experience mentor, because you were constantly coming into my office saying, look, Amazon is focused on this. They understand how the consumer thinks, and and we have to get better at this. And you were constantly pushing me in that direction. And it's still in the back of my mind. Every time I see these innovations coming out, I think David would love this. This is very consumer centric, and it's really going to change the game. So are you doing anything fun these days with regard to the consumer experience?
Probably the nicest stuff you ever said about me, Bill. So first off, but no, I did enjoy being liberated in trying to lead through the eyes of the consumer, the patient, the provider back in the day. And yeah, that continues and is still near to my heart. It's taken many different, iterations of what we used to call engagement manager, and now just it's UX is what I would say we refer to it as. But a lot of the products that we're pushing out right now, it's really cool. I've taken that whole model is still in place, but only expanded where there is someone leading that user experience from the field. So we've merged our operators and our clinicians into IT almost. So there's groups of folks, and the products are designed, I say field when I talk about our offices, there's 800 plus offices. So I always say field because there's, big groups that kind of look after those offices. And when we're designing the product, it's not IT in the background anymore in the ivory tower, pulling together stuff and jamming it out. It's the opposite. The field and our guys on the field designing, working out what will make our lives easier, our workflows more efficient, and then us building to their designs.
We're going to talk about the back cave, because the last time I was at Pacific Dental down there in Orange County, you and Mustafa took me into the back room and showed me some of the cool stuff you're doing. But before we get there, bring people up to speed. Pacific Dental, how many offices? What do you guys do?
850 plus offices now. I say plus because new offices opening every week. Had a little slowdown, just through COVID for obvious reasons, but we're an in-person business. We got to serve our patient population, and our offices have, remained open throughout, even through that emergency phase. We really kind of doubled down over that period.
There was talk of vaccinations, dentists doing vaccinations. Did that ever get any momentum?
A little, probably not as fast as I guess folks would have hoped. We were, all over that in offering. How can we help? And there's a couple of offices that, are actually doing it right now. I was reading this morning, some that had started, but yeah, interesting, planning around that for sure. So I don't know that we've been as effective, not through our own fault, at trying to help, facilitate that.
Well, it's just the quantity of vaccine didn't allow for it. I mean, there were so many organizations that didn't have enough vaccine, and they had the clinicians to do it. So now we're getting to that point where the quantity's there. All right, let's talk. We'll talk about the back cave in a little bit, but let's first talk about your Epic implementation. That was a bold decision back in the day. I didn't know of many, if any, Epic implementations in the dental world. Talk about that decision and how's that playing out for you guys?
It could have been a CLM, Bill. You remember you used to threaten me with that career limiting move? But it panned out okay. Really good, in fact. I mean, it's been a great partnership. Coming from the medical world, this is what's been great with dental. We're the second largest DSO in the US dental services organization. Our model, I think, is pretty unique, and seeing the success of these offices is very fulfilling. And one of the legacy areas of technology that we knew we had to implement, which I really didn't want to do again in my lifetime, but was a practice management system replacement. You know how fun those things are, right? Because it feels a little thankless.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a CIO anymore. I like being on this side of it. I don't wake up in the middle of the night with. But you maybe this is too strong a word, but you had a mess, right? You had a mishmash of systems and some client server stuff and whatnot. You had to do something about the practice management.
A lot of client server stuff, and in fairness, the system was designed pretty well over the years from the traditional sense. So it got us to the first $1 billion in revenue, but it certainly wouldn't take us to the next level. It was kind of tapped out. We're a big organization for when that product was originally designed and was only in a couple of offices, but so it served us well. But yeah, user experience, integrations, it's all very, very manual and very average. So we set about and went through a huge analysis on what systems could we move to. And it's an interesting space in dental because I feel like it's all private practice, right? Mum and pop shops, essentially one person practices. And then you get a few with a few groups, 5+, and then probably 3% of the market is in the DSO space. So there's plenty of opportunity there, but we're underserved. The bigger organizations, the bigger DSOs, certainly underserved in software that could help run an organization size in this space.
Talking to healthcare market, are the traditional players in this space? I mean, you're going with Epic, the Cerner, Athena, and Allscripts. I mean, do they play in that space, or is it very specific? Dental's very specific.
Very specific. It's like separate software, right? And what we wanted to do, we believe, firmly in what we call the mouth-body connection, oral systemic health. It's real, and we're founder-led, and Steve is a force to be reckoned with in the space. He passionately believes in it, and dental not being that redheaded stepchild, right, of the healthcare industry. Your head's connected, and we wanted to bring more information to bear around that, and those those true systemic links from your health from the mouth, essentially. So we came up with the idea around approaching one of those big organizations. Epic I'd had some relationships with through prior life. I have to say, I gotta be honest, right? It's slow moving. Back in the day, on the medical side, it was different. Dental is very fast moving. We're privately held as well, so it feels like it's even more entrepreneurial from our side. We get things done real quick. So this was a big deal, and it had to be. My concern was, can Epic react quick enough to keep up with us and me and our aspirations to make the dental world a better place and give our providers some really great software that complements their workflow. So after multiple conversations, the relationship started developing, and they were interested in doing something. But
did they have something already, or did they start to develop it with?
Sorry, I didn't answer that original question. So yes, they did, but Kaiser and a few of their facilities like who have medical and dental attached, they were using it. So Epic did have a module, it wasn't DSO ready for us with the speed that we need to move at, throughout our workflows. And also the country of Finland were lit up on that module in the Natural Health Service, with their medical and dental. So that they had a whole country on it, in fairness. So we just, we've looked at how do we, turn the dial on making it DSO ready, as we call it.
So DSO ready. So you guys are essentially dental service organization. You're supporting all these practices out in the field, but it is distributed. It's not like, it's not like big hospital with multiple. Rolling this out is probably more akin to rolling out an ambulatory system where
Yes.
you're going out to all these different locations. Give us an idea of the process. Let's assume that, so Epic comes through with the build, and we'll come back to that, and you're ready to go out. There's a training component. You're going out to some pretty remote places. You're getting this thing installed. Did you go with a cloud? I assume you went with a cloud type model, or are you hosting yourself? What does it look like?
So yeah, you're exactly right. It would be likened in medical to, the ambulatory kind of setup. The module that sits on top of that is Wisdom. We've been the Vanguard partner to Epic and spent a year in the build out. So what I appreciate about, Judy and Epic, and she's been remarkably engaged on this, which it's been really fun, working so closely with those teams, is what we help develop here is not only good for us, is good for the entire community. So there are many areas that are not going to be proprietary. And what I appreciate about this is that's good for us, because we want dental to be able to rise together to the point where if we do this implementation well enough, and it's looking like it's going that way, I would like to be able to offer the opportunity to assist other DSOs through the Community Connect kind of initiatives. So if there are other DSOs listening, I think what we have done is designed a platform play that we can help propagate, and other folks can essentially plug into. Maybe DSOs that are too small to deal directly with Epic, we could assist there. So it's a different model. It's definitely more of cooperative thinking, and I'm just excited with the way that our teams came together. It took, like I say, a year to get that first iteration of the build that we were looking for ready. And we've been very aggressive with Epic on the 3 monthly, releases. So every month we're deploying offices, and we're a couple of hundred offices deep now, which is great, and just turning the product, rapidly.
So is it a pretty easy transition from the operator and the dentist? Was that an easy transition, or was it a significant UI change for them?
It's significant. It is. There's no getting around it. It's very different. Good in a good way. In the most, think of it like this. You remember was it Sabre and the airline system used? It's very
the green screen with the little blinking cursor.
So imagine that. But what you got to remember, people have been with a company for say 15, 20 years, that it's becomes like a second language. So they're just hacking away. They go, oh, it's fine. So that some people were not upset. It was the new folks that came in. It took 4 months of ramp time to get them up to speed back in the day. They're the ones that are like, what is this? Why can't I use my, where are the graphics? Where's the UI? So it's just, it's different, but in a good way. The ramp time is quicker. First of all, can be, horrifying to folks because the change is enormous. I think on the clinician side, the back office, as we call it, is definitely, that's very quick, right? It's familiar in terms of those layups and those flows. The big build for us has been on that front end, right? And the automations that we're able to now provide around workflows that we couldn't before. So it's very different in the guts of the system, let's say.
How because dental's different than medical. So in dental, you have a lot of different devices than you would have in a medical setting. The integrations, did the device players and partners, did they work with Epic to build the integrations into the system, or are there not that many integrations?
Oh no, there's a ton of integration. So we have our middleware team, if you like, our integrations teams, we call it, between our true integration and workflow technology. There's a few pieces that are plugged into that, right? And if sometimes there's even more traditional integrations that are required, we can get to like an RPA, like a robotics process automation kind of level, to make sure that we're still moving things around in as automated manner as possible. But ultimately, a lot of folks have come together to do, true API-based kind of integrations, which has been fantastic. There are just a lot of them. So I have a whole team specifically working on that. And then there have also been, problems with some of the hardware vendors. I would say in dental, it's very proprietary. It's like folks are almost locked into certain ecosystems where they buy this software and then this hardware. And I'm like, it's very old thinking. So we actually forged a dental advisory council where we invited essentially a lot of these vendors to the table, and we have 3 monthly with 6 monthly meetings now where we're kind of talking about why is it good to lock something down, right? We get that, but let's think about if we open some of this stuff up and we let the open market be able to develop on some of this stuff, right, with us. Why do you care if you're selling the hardware that you also try and force people down a certain software lane? So I think that's been really good, and certain vendors and partners have been mind-blowingly open to, you're right, we can do better. Let's do this together. So it's been fun.
Interesting. The interoperability aspect, which is probably one of the reasons you went down this path, right? You want to be able to share the data back and forth with health systems to start to get integrated into that.
Yes.
Into
free
that
the
process.
data, Bill. Free the data. I think I stole that from you.
Free the data. So the interoperability, is it the same Epic tools that we're used to today, the Care Everywhere and those kind of things, Epic MyChart and whatnot?
Yep, there's a lot of that. I think they're way more open than most recall. And just, I think they've been a good driver in the interoperability actually, and helping, move some of that data around, and not just obviously from the security standpoint, it's very important that, it is locked to an extent in a certain way, but there's much of that data that we need to liberate to be able to drive our other workflows. And there have been a lot of successful methods that we're able to do that by.
So let me ask you this. So this is the case scenario. So let's see, Memorial Care in your market is on Epic. So if I'm a Memorial Care patient and I'm a Pacific Dental patient and I have MyChart, am I going to be able to see dental and medical yet?
Yes. There you go. That's exactly why, right? Finally, we're the first dental organization in the US to bring this type of data together. So there's a couple of methods, but assuming, and there is some versioning dependencies on some of the medical side, but yes, ultimately with patient's authorization, both sides of the care spectrum can see all of your data finally, which is, we think, pretty huge.
What are you doing for scheduling, just out of curiosity? Because I know you're constantly thinking about automation and making that process easier. Are you going through those tools, or have you developed tools outside of it that you're just going to continue on with and plug them in?
No, it's a combo. We've embraced as much of some of the, Epic do things like, was it FastPass? It always reminds me of that Disney concept. But essentially, if you want to get an earlier appointment, you could say, yes, if a cancellation comes up, then let me know. And it will do like round robin on the first 5 folks that said yes, and see kind of who picks it. So there's some nice innovative stuff that's in there. And scheduling to us is just, such a core component of our business, because there are so many appointments across so many operatories that happen every day. So we have our own proprietary system that's been very successful on the legacy practice management system, and there's a combination. But yeah, in the most, we're available online scheduling across the board, and have been for some time. I think the UI looks good now. We're able to facilitate that through initially our office page, and then ultimately MyChart.
Yeah. So CLM, you mentioned earlier, career limiting move. It doesn't sound like it's been for you. And actually, the reason where that came up is you'd come into my office saying, I got this great idea. And I would say, great, run with it. But you have to own it. It's your idea. You're running with it. And it really prepared you for this. I mean, these kinds of decisions are the kind of thing where everyone's looking at you going, are you sure? There's probably a couple times during a project like this, people are going, are you sure? Are you sure? And you're like, yeah, I'm sure. Well, I believe in this. We're going to do it. So.
Tons of people. No, and you're right. I'm fortunate to have a great partner and CEO who's very digitally forward, and just, you know, we work through it together. But I, you know, when it comes to signing time, it's a huge deal, you know, pretty much over a 10-year package. And it's
a lot of money.
Yeah, it's 100 million plus kind of initiative. So there's a lot of investment that's going into it.
Yeah. And you guys are you guys privately held?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're not just printing money like some other organizations. You guys are actually, you work hard for your money, as Donna Summer used to say.
Hard for our money. Look after, treat every penny as if it's your own, is what I was told. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we do.
Let's talk about the back cave. Which is what I called it. You guys just had a really cool innovation room back at the headquarters down there. And you were showing me some things. You and Mustafa were sort of walking around showing me how you were thinking about every aspect of the experience as the person walked into the office, how they were received, even the chair. I mean, you had certain aspects of the chair and just crazy stuff. You guys really are looking at the entire experience. And how did that become a part of the IT part of the organization? Was there somebody who was doing that before, or did you guys just sort of step into a void potentially?
You know, sometimes I say when you've got talent, it's just you got to find them a job. So when I knew Mustafa was on the market, I was like, all right, I got to find the job. And the perfect job is this. Is our innovations. We call it a test kitchen, but essentially we have a separate group within, right, which is a spin out called PDS Innovations. And that's what Mustafa leads, and he has the autonomy to fail fast and experiment. So there's some R&D budget. Again, we're very fortunate. I pitched the idea, and you know, it was well received. Then of course it's like finding some of essentially we'll look for gaps internally, right? This is what I love about the group. We'll look for gaps, and that involves a lot of, you know, observing workflows and folks in action in the offices, which is fun, and seeing why they're doing it that way. How can we give them time back, or, you know, workflow savings, or ultimately giving them, you know, more face-to-face with the patient, saving them money, whatever it may be, in terms of one of those key, you know, buckets, or the pillars as we call them, of why would we do this. Then they will come back and prototype. Sometimes, you know, vendors come to us and we'll be like, you know, we'll take a look, but there's a lot of fun stuff that goes on. So we've built out a pretty impressive team in the AI space and the RPA space down there, and now also on the payment side. So I'll give you an example. The way people pay for things is horrible and not very transparent, you know, similar to healthcare. Not as bad, actually, just because in the healthcare space, just a bill turns up still and you're like, how much? I have no say in this. So dental is we have to work a lot harder up front to talk about, this is what we're covered and this is what, you know, could be out of pocket, and, you know, here are your options. So anyway, it was just, and especially when you get down to a point, for example, of not only taking the card, no one wants to touch stuff anymore, right? So we had to get better with touchless, better with QR scans, better. We saw an opportunity to move away from those old school payment systems to iPad-driven situations, right, for taking payments. And then, of course, if you needed, you know, financing, for example, horrible, right? It's just kind of almost embarrassing. But once again, comes back to user experience. Oh, you're interested in financing? It's a clipboard and a piece of paper, right? And now, right, we're a little more advanced, right? Here's an electronic device, but we were like, we want to spin this on its head. Everybody gets finance. We just have to set the deals up with the right partners behind the scenes. So now you can know as a patient, you're going to get finance, and we're going to predetermine, right, using our AI and the platform that we've built, the best deal for you, essentially, based upon a number of soft pulls in the background. So that now is seamless. If you could scan the screen and then you just apply for the credit essentially on your own device. If you wanted, you could take the tablet. There's many ways, but I give you that as one example of that's the kind of stuff the team is looking to solve.
You guys are doing the implants and those kind of things. I'm trying to think what I would need credit for, but you're doing the serious things where you're actually like replacing teeth with
yeah, we think about, I mean, yeah, we're doing, you know, a number of procedures, you know, across the board that you do add up. And unlike healthcare, right, there's a cap. So think about your dental insurance. Most people, if you're lucky, are going to have like a whole $1,500 to spend every year, and you're going to try and
that's exactly what I have is $1,500. Is that enough?
That's a magic number. It depends on how much candy you're eating, Bill, but not always, right? Not if you're going to need an implant, for example, all right, and you're going to need a crown potentially. It depends on the treatment. So there are lots of scenarios where finance is required, right? And there's a large number of patients that do that. And for me, it's like, how can we do this in a way that is not obtrusive, not embarrassing, and just is part of the flow and makes them feel, good about their decision to get the dentistry started. So I think we've worked hard on that experience, that's coming to fruition. If you go on look at like the Peloton site, right? A firm who are big in the fintech space right now, for example, it's just like, hey, Bill, do you want to split this bike up in 6 easy payments? Well, yeah, that's nice and gives me an immediate okay, and then takes you through. That's what we're trying to create, in the dental space with even more intelligence.
Well, you touched on it a little bit, but the pandemic has brought to the forefront this new term that we didn't really think about before, which was contactless experiences, right? So it's not handing them a clipboard, it's not handing them a piece of paper, and now it's almost mandated. I talked to some CIOs who are essentially saying to me, I tried for years to get rid of the clipboards, and what I couldn't do over a 3-year period, COVID did in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted a pen. Nobody wanted a clipboard that they were going to carry around that somebody else had just had. And so have you guys really thought, is there a lot of areas where you had to adapt and look at contactless, or were you already heading in that direction?
I think we were definitely accelerated certain elements of the contactless. We were pretty paperless in the most anyway, which was great. But things like, a good crisis, right, drives some of this innovation for sure. And what we came up with in 2 weeks, what I think was penned for a 12 to 18 month initiative, and that was the telehealth, teledental consults, which you're like, well, is that a thing in dental? And I would say yes, it is, and it's growing, and it will get better. There's only so much you can do, obviously, right?
Yeah. So is that like, hey, I have some pain or I have something, and then we get on a call like this, or are there a set of tools other than the initial consult like this?
So now the initial consults like this to gauge, how bad are the symptoms and how soon should we try and get you in as an emergency, essentially, right? And how can we help with the tools available now? Those said tools are only advancing. We've got some really fun stuff going on with some intraoral opportunities and stuff, and phone-based situations where you can really get more of a close-up visual of the mouth. So during the pandemic, it went from, we didn't offer televisits to 2 weeks later, we were live across 800 and whatever it was, 20 offices at the time, I think. And we did over 5,000 virtual visits in the subsequent weeks. It was like insanity. So there was a demand. People just wanted to have that initial consult. What was also good was it built trust initially, because we were picking up so many patients from offices that were closed, and there's a need. You know what it's like when you get a toothache, Bill. It's like insane.
Oh yeah,
it's the worst pain.
It is the worst.
So then we did a big campaign, because every 14 seconds someone with a toothache was walking into an emergency department, right? And essentially what are they doing? They're going to get narcotics, right, to try and help ease the pain there. So it's just not an ideal solution all around. So our campaign was that, really, we're open and we'll help you out. It's just like dental pain is the worst. So we focused in on those emergencies, and we kind of doubled down on the televisits initially, which worked out, pretty well. I mean, they definitely, declined. Only you got to be in front of your dentist, right? But at that point in time, I think it was just a great bridging kind of solution to help in the initial engagement.
I learned a ton of stuff from you around culture. You invariably always had the most fun team in our IT organization. And if June and Rob are listening to this, I'm sorry, but David's team always seemed to have more fun than the other teams that were there. But the pandemic sort of put a crimp in the face-to-face things and the hanging out with the team, and all that stuff. How have you adapted and kept the culture moving forward?
It's a great question. I think it's the most important thing to me is that, outside of a good structure is the culture. I'm fortunate to have some phenomenal leaders. It's still the most fun department. So likewise, if I got my PDS brethren listening, yeah, we do have a lot of fun. I coined a few things from you again, shameless, right? But I think some of the stuff you did was fantastic with the town halls and that. We have a big town hall, 250 folks on there, and just trying to make sure everyone's connected with the overall kind of vision. Obviously, a ton of video. We're a big video company, as everyone is. In fact, probably overly so. It's like, do we really need meetings for this? Because I'm a strong believer in not having meetings for meetings' sake, but video is the next best thing, right? So, and we've got a lot of us are out when we're out in the field, or we are, coming together. It's with the PPE and stuff. Obviously, the dental company is pretty good at those practices anyway. But all the knowledge workers, there are obviously lots, that were moved to home in short order. Thankfully, we had a lot of that tech in place, but it's important to have, regular open communications, and it helps to have a little fun around some of those meetings. So I think it's still prominent, and we've been fortunate. I think we've got amazing culture, especially in, our IT group, passionate about keeping everyone together and getting after it.
Yeah. Well, so talk to me about the priorities going into 2021. Obviously, you're at 200 offices. You still have a fair amount of the organization to go if you're only at 200 offices.
Yeah, just a couple. So yeah, we'll be 500 deep by the end of the year. We'll be completed next year, Q1. It's getting into a good cadence. It gets to a point you hit that tipping point where people, those early adopters are like, all right, this thing is now moving. It saves time in these areas, and there's.
So are you using, because what people may not recognize is, I mean, you're in a lot of states, and you're in a lot of states, a lot of remote places. Are you using partners to roll some of this stuff out?
No, we've got a team that travels, extensively on this. We've looked at a number of different models, and because you have to be kind of so deep with the product and have the confidence to be able to, we have at the hip support on that first week, and it's always different. You can go into any training class, right? I've done some of the training classes myself. When you're sat there in an office behind that front desk and patient comes in, and they're in pain, and you're like, okay, it's showtime. And you're like, well, I just forgot everything. What do I do again? What's your name? So it's totally different when you're live patients in front of you. And I think we've got an outrageously talented team who travel, light them up, enjoy the work they're doing, and then we get them flying as fast as possible.
I mean, they're literally seeing most of America then. I mean, because you guys are all over.
Yeah, about 17 states. I think I haven't got the official stat. It changes regularly. But yeah, we are spread. But we do also have, we have big support presence across, obviously, California, but a large presence in Vegas, where I'm moving to, and then Texas as well, right? There's some big hubs there. So there are, when we're recruiting, the beauty of having this kind of size is we can attract talent the talent doesn't all have to be in, one geography.
All right. Are you up for talking about healthcare in general? I know you've been out of healthcare, the healthcare provider space for a while. I know you're still in healthcare at Pacific Dental.
Yeah, I've still got tons of friends in there, but it is a boring subject, Bill, because there's a lot of talk and not much action, as you know. So
all right, so let's talk about the action. The action, just this week, so people will be able to figure out when we're recording this. Amazon announced Amazon Care to 50 states for their employees first and foremost. And as you've told me many times, nobody understands the consumer better than Amazon. I mean, they have a ton of information on them. They have that mantra of designing everything around the consumer, and then they are going to essentially find the weak spots that exist. And one of the weak spots in healthcare is it's inconvenient, hard to schedule, it's hard to access, it's just all those things that. But how did Feinberg said it this way? He said, the waiting room represents all that is wrong with healthcare. we make our consumers come to us, sit in a room and wait until we're ready. We make them wait 10 minutes longer than we told them they were going to. Then we put them in a room. They don't even talk to the person they came to see. They sit in that room. Then we close the door and they sit in that room by themselves for another 10, 15 minutes before the person they came to see actually comes in. That person spends about 5 minutes with them, leaves, and then they go. And I don't think that's going to be the experience with Amazon. Amazon Care is a concierge level service. They'll come to you and they will ship your meds to you. And if you do get sick, as an employer program, if you do get sick, if you have cancer, they'll send you to City of Hope, or they'll send you to some other really, reputable academic medical center around the country who is known for that specific disease state. And it feels to me like we are starting to see what we chatted about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the tech players finally figuring out healthcare and giving us what we all want as consumers. Is that what you're seeing, or is that what you think when you hear about that?
Yeah, totally. I think it's about bringing the back end together and then, disrupting essentially the traditional workflow. Like you say, front office, sit, wait, go to this other, another office, another room, wait, someone knock on the door. And then, eventually you might get to see the doc if you're lucky. So it's an inconsistent experience. So the difference I see, and I've been lucky to have the opportunity to be part of one, is more of the concierge medical, and that being the gateway, a little like your PCP, right? Your primary care physician is that gateway, the jack of all trades, if you like.
So you're a part of a concierge medical program.
Yes. And it's 24/7. I could text my doc now. He'll text back. We have a relationship, right? And it's really cool. And yes, there's always going to be that added expense, but I see the model becoming more normalized like that, where you have, more technologically advanced areas that are looking at, way more measurables they had before, right? Everything from, DNA to the food and allergy testing, or I do a full annual checkup, which is like insane. And I usually say, let's do more. I love, studying what foods could I be allergic to? How can I get more energy, every day? So we run through true wellness, right? And I love playing around with, I'll track diet, I'll track vitamin supplements, and that's kind of fun to me. And the difference is that when something, I had a bulging disc, which I didn't expect at some point. I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen, right? And then they took me on that kind of referral through the specialist kind of network to get, to get me where I needed to go. So it's guided. It's like a healthcare navigator, if you like. And that's what I think is starting to hit a tipping point. I see more and more of these concierge places opening up. Yeah.
And I think that's what we want from our healthcare providers. But I mean, you worked at a healthcare provider. I worked at a healthcare provider. It's not just the technology. We could probably stand up the technology to do it, right? Because you can do it with a phone and texting back and forth, and it's really rethinking the workflow that has been in place for decades, and that's the hard part. It's redesigning it in a way that is consumer centric. How do you get that level of design thinking, that level of consumer centric thinking in your innovation? Is it just hiring the right people to think that way? Is it hiring onto an organization that already has that culture? Because at PDS, you have that. You have a team, you have a leadership team that thinks innovate. And you hired Mustafa, so you were able to build the team that you wanted to build. But imagine I just hired you back to where you were before, and we have to do this. We have to sort of change the experience. We have to rally a whole bunch of doctors to really change the culture. I mean, how do you approach that? How would you think about approaching that?
You've got to find the leaders with the right mindset, because you're going to find folks, as we did, regularly. I think the EDs were some of our toughest customers, but it was important to forge the relationship with the leadership in the ED, and then the right docs with the right mindset, and let them know, that they don't think you understand the pressure that they're under, right? And I think a lot of times you don't, until we pull an all-nighter and sit in the ED all night watching them and watching, you know, horrific things happen and amazing things happen where they're literally saving lives. That's, you know, I don't miss that pressure in general, I've got to say. But that's the only way you can kind of shift the mindset in saying, just because it's always been done this way, is this right? And it's getting those right folks behind you, and then having them be part of potential new designs that you can quickly iterate on and fail fast on, right? So like you said, it's not just the technology, it's the workflows. So while you're running across that room to pick up a prescription on a printer that's, you know, 100 feet away, it makes sense. So why would you not move simple stuff like that all the way? You've got to start the fundamentals, right? There's a lot of good teachings, I guess, in the, you know, the agile workflows and stuff in those clinical settings. But ultimately it comes down to finding the people with the right mindset. Because if you have people that are going to tell you it's going to fail and never works, always been done this way, then nothing's going to change. So you got to change the folks driving the bus.
Yeah. And you did preach, you know, walk in their shoes, get out there and walk in their shoes, hang out in
the ivory tower, hang out there. I mean, yeah, sleep in the beds in the ED. I'm always, my best time are in the practices with the docs running around.
I was going to put you on the spot and say, do you still get out there? Because it gets harder when you get into that CIO chair, because you have so many meetings and stuff you have to go to.
Always, you have to make time. It's easy to, there's two things that are easy to kind of just push off. One is being in the field, right, with your actual customer. And then two is, you know, the strategic planning components. Something that always feels like homework. Some of the best, like, the weight comes off your shoulders. You have a plan. The team are marching towards, you know, the ultimate strategy. But it's so easy to say, oh, I'll do that next week. Help your teams understand what success looks like. Very important.
All right, I'll push you. You know, we're getting close to the end of this call. I'll push you just like an executive coaching session. How's your work-life balance? Do you have work-life balance?
I hate that term, Bill. I'm really it's an awful term.
It's work balance. Is that what you're saying?
There's no such thing. If you have work-life balance, then you must hate your work. The only option there is work-life blend. They're both one and the same. I love being at home with the family. I love my work too. It's like, and I'm not going to switch off at 5 o'clock. It's impossible, right? So, but when I need time back, I'll take the time back. The new world is having a little more autonomy. So honestly, I think I really believe in that work-life blend. It's take the time when you need it and go all in when when you're working.
Yeah. So essentially what you're telling me is you're a lot more relaxed since you're not working for me anymore.
Yeah. You making me punch that clock every day, but no.
Punch the clock.
We had, you know, I always enjoyed that autonomy. If you need those strong leaders in there, right? And then they can build that culture with people that are passionate about what they do. Like, and you know, we've spoken about it before. Opportunities just don't land on your lap every day. So the folks that are there hating their jobs, hating their lives, I always say to everybody, if you don't like what you're doing, then you've got to be the change agent for yourself. Invest in yourself. There's so many opportunities right now.
I mean, what I'm telling people is essentially 70% of the time you have to like your job. If not, you should be looking for something else, because 30% of our job, we're never going to like. I mean, you sort of go, today is one of those days. I just got to do the 30%.
It's not unicorns and rainbows every day, for sure. But if more of your day is spent hating what you're doing, then life is seriously too short. I know it's an old cliche, but you've really got to do stuff that makes a difference.
So you were a big runner, and both adjectives actually work. You're 6 foot, whatever, 6 foot, 100. What are you? You're 6'6", 6'7"?
6'8". Stop jiffing me.
6'8", 6'8" runner. That's not a normal thing, I guess. But are you still running a lot?
Yeah, I do a little bit more Peloton now. It's quicker and a little bit more intense. I guess I've not got a runner's frame, but no, I still run. It's fun. It's a good all mind and body kind of workout.
I'll tell you what, David. Almost everybody I know who ran has given it up as they've gotten older because of the pounding on the knees and back, really.
Yeah, definitely. So plus I was scaring people running down the street.
So tell me about the Peloton experience. I'm sorry, I got another 5 minutes with you, so I'm going to get every minute I can out of you. Tell me about the Peloton experience. I mean, was a healthcare type purchase?
Yeah, I mean, my wife does a lot of running and stuff. Same thing, gets a bit creaky, right? So we started spinning and it was fun. COVID hit, and then we have a home gym, which was lucky and has been great, especially, you know, from a time perspective and the fact that we can actually work out. So we bought a Bowflex machine, first of all. I'll drop some names here because their customer service sucks. But here's what happened. The thing turned up, and it's actually pretty cool, and it links into the Peloton system, and it's way cheaper, right? The experience is good. It's not like being on a Peloton though. So we ended up, you know, I use it a ton, and then we said, let's just get a Peloton. The new one came out, and it's a game changer. Obviously, I was like seeking out, you know, the best gadget again, but the screen's huge, the sound's amazing. And here's the thing, their new machine, you gotta love this, right? As you're doing the class, instead of before you're tweaking the dial and putting the resistance up or down, now they do the automated resistance for you. If you want in, you just hit a button and they change the resistance. And I'm like, this is like, now you can just focus fully on the class and experience more what they're going through. So I'm like, that's a game changer for me. It's such a good experience.
Is it weird having, you know, people come into your house and you're riding with and have them yell at you like they do at spin classes?
On the screen, it's less intimidating, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Although the Peloton experience has been something that people have talked about and said it is a phenomenally well thought out. Yeah, but you know, at that price point, it really should be. I mean, when we buy an Apple over an Android, somebody said, you know, why would you spend so much for the Apple? And I'm like, you've never owned an Apple phone. It's like, no, I haven't. It's like, you wouldn't ask that question if you owned an Apple phone after owning an Android.
Exactly right. And that's what they did. And, you know, I was like, I'm not wasting that money. That monthly's, you know, seems excessive. And so I go down the more economical route, which was okay. It was good. But now I can tell you as a convert, the experience is so different. It's like, yeah, I'm getting the Apple experience on the exercise bike there.
Gosh, but back when I knew you, you were a penny pincher. Now you own a Peloton. That's that's significant change for you.
I'm investing in my health here, Bill. And so yeah.
Actually, yes, you have. You've actually given me books about my health. So that's the kind of employee you want to have. Somebody who wants to help you to stay alive. So
are you running? Are you running still, Bill? Just off the bat?
I am. I gave up running a long time ago. I do bike, but not nearly as much. It's not spinning, it's biking. Literally, it's driving, going around this circle. The circle's roughly a mile, and I go around it a couple times. But it's not the same for me. I need to get into a routine of some kind. How did this turn into being about me?
You see that Psychology 101? I might me just spin it there. So
yeah, I've got to work on it. David, fantastic conversation. I love following this journey. We were there when you guys made the decision to go with Epic Wisdom, and I've talked to your CEO and a couple other people from your company as well, and got to interview you and Mustafa in the office, and to see it finally get to this point, 200 offices in. It'll be interesting to see when you get to, well, you'll never be at a number. I mean, Pacific Dental, you guys are there's always more offices to.
There's so much opportunity. You know, it's true. And it's been a crazy ride. I love, hyper growth. It's been awesome. We're always looking to hire. So if anyone hears this.
And this is a case where the technology becomes a game changer, right? I mean, you get Epic Wisdom in there. It's highly integrated. You have the stuff that Mustafa's doing around the experience. And now all of a sudden somebody comes in and looks at it and goes, wow, that's a lot better than what we're doing. Let's join this team. Let's be a part of that. And that's where technology really takes an organization, a company to the next level.
Yeah, proven technology. If you think about, dentists coming out of school, this is a great model for them to accelerate kind of their business ownership and growth. And part of that is, our proven technologies. We're the biggest same day crown miller in the US. So, I mean, we do, chair side, more putty in the mouth and sending off things to labs in the most, right? We will literally 3D scan you and mill your crown while you are sat in the chair. So things like that, technology wise, I would certainly say gives you the edge. Same day dentistry is real.
Awesome. David, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
What a great discussion. If you know of someone that might benefit from our channel, from these kinds of discussions, please forward them a note. Perhaps your team, your staff. I know if I were a CIO today, I would have every one of my team members listening to this show. It's conference level value every week. They can subscribe on our website, thisweekhealth.com, or they can go wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Google, Overcast, which is what I use, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it, we're out there. They can find us. Go ahead, subscribe today, send a note to someone, and have them subscribe as well. We want to thank our channel sponsors who are investing in our mission to develop the next generation of health IT leaders. Those are VMware, Hillrom, Starbridge Advisors, Aruba, and McAfee. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.